Hello and welcome back to the podcast. If this is your first time listening, please follow me on Spotify, the podcast app on Apple devices, or YouTube at Real Juan Alcala. If you find the content interesting, leave a rating or a comment. You can also follow my Instagram on my official page at Reasonable with Juan Alcala and watch clips on TikTok at reasonable_Juan. So I had dropped an episode recently from the beginning of this episode, totally unrelated to the topic that I'll be discussing today. Obviously, I'm wearing Mexico soccer jersey in support of immigrants, in support of fellow Mexicans, of other Mexicans, and me being the type of person not to get involved in talking about controversial topics. I figured that I had to speak up on this because this is a time in our country, in the United States, and other people that are Mexican American, like me, have to keep their eyes open and ears open about what is going on with ICE and the deportations of people that are considered illegal. And it's very tough for me to talk about because I don't know all the details. And so I figured that I would go on this podcast and really go over the details with me. And maybe if you don't know the details either, then this will be a good episode for you because we're going on a deep dive. Here, I'll share my screen. Let's see what I can do here. So this is from CNN. And I'll look at different sources as I go on. So here it says, Marines being mobilized for LA protests as California sues Trump administration. Newsom says he's been informed Trump to deploy additional 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles. It is 2,000 National Guard troops. California Governor Gavin Newsom said he was informed that President Donald Trump is deploying an additional 2,000 national troops to Los Angeles. Previously, the governor criticized Trump for deploying the first 2,000 troops, sharing photos of sleeping guardsmen and indicating they were given no food or water. Newsom pointed out that only 300 troops are deployed from the first 2,000, while the rest are sitting unused in federal buildings without orders. This isn't about public safety. It's about stroking a dangerous president's ego, the governor said. This is reckless, pointless, and disrespectful to our troops. The White House said on Saturday that Trump signed a presidential memorandum deploying 2,000 National Guardsmen to Los Angeles. CNN has reached out to the White House and the Pentagon for comment on Newsom's post about more guards heading to Los Angeles. So, but what I want to know, well, first of all, the Trump versus Gavin Newsom isn't new for people that haven't been aware of what's going on. I mean, between Gavin Newsom and Trump, I mean, they've always had I felt like a strained relationship. I think Gavin Newsom has said a lot of things about Trump, and Trump has said a lot of things about Gavin Newsom, and they both, being politicians, it's almost inevitable that they clash, and both of them being of the different types of parties. One being a Democrat and Gavin Newsom, and one being Republican in Donald Trump. The last time I heard some situation going down in LA was the LA fires recently too. So, so to hear that there's being National Guardsmen being deployed to LA, 2,000 of them is big news. I mean, how much do they usually get? sorry guys, do they get deployed to situations like these, right? It's not it's not normal, right? So here I will just read. I'm kind of scrolling through this to read the different stories here, but it is an ongoing story. It says multiple people taken into custody at anti-ICE protests in New York, NYPD says. So not just in LA, in different parts of the country. It says multiple people were taken into custody at anti-ICE protests at 26 Federal Plaza in New York City. At New York Police Department spokesman told CNN today that Jacob K. Javits, I want to say Javits, federal building houses on a number of government offices, including the Department of Homeland Security, as well as an immigration court. The police spokesman did not provide any details on the charges facing protesters or number of people detained, saying the situation was still developing. When officers arrived at the scene, they encountered multiple individuals sitting in the roadway, blocking vehicles, the spokesperson said. Demonstrators were instructed verbally numerous times to vacate, the spokesperson added. In a post on X, NYC Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said, "We have no tolerance for violence, property damage, or for people blocking cars, driveways, or entrances to buildings. Any attack against law enforcement will be met with a swift and decisive response from the NYPD," she said. So, protesters potentially becoming violent. See, that's the thing. I don't know. So the original protest is for who's getting deported, right? Is it just Mexicans? Is it other ethnicities, right? Like I'm not too sure, but I want to know like who has the better news source, because they're not really saying who it is here. But let me search it up another one. Um, let me know what is a good news source, really, because I've heard CNN that it's not such a good news source. So news on, what should I say? News on LA ICE protests. So this one's by CBS. Let's see what this one says. Here we are. What to know about the Los Angeles immigration protest over ICE operations? Tensions in Los Angeles escalated Sunday as thousands of protesters took to the streets in response to President Trump's deployment of the National Guard, blocking off a major freeway and setting self-driving cars on fire as law enforcement used tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbangs to control the crowd. California Governor Gavin Newsom said Monday his office intends to sue the Trump administration for deploying the Guard without consulting him, a move he called illegal and immoral, in a social media post Sunday. In another post Monday morning, Newsom said Mr. Trump illegally acted to federalize the National Guard, adding, "We're suing him." As of Monday, 53 people have been arrested, officials said. The LAPD said it has arrested 31 people on a range of charges, including failure to disperse, objects and fireworks thrown at officers, looting, and arson. California Highway Patrol had arrested 17 people, and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department made 5 arrests, the agencies told CBS News. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonnell on Sunday addressed complaints, accusing the police department of responding too slowly to the unrest. So I'm almost certain that these protests were non-violent. Like who's turning these protests into a violent situation? Could it be that the police officers, the National Guard's presence there has escalated the situation? Possibly, and people would argue that definitely yes. To say otherwise would be incorrect, but I try to have a non-biased perspective on it, but obviously me being Mexican, it's almost impossible. I am heavily supportive and biased, and yeah, of course. So it says We can't participate in any way in civil immigration enforcement, McDonald said. He reminded reporters that police must comply with the California Values Act, a Los Angeles sanctuary city ordinance, also known as SB 54 or 54, SB 54, which prevents local and state law enforcement agencies from assisting federal immigration enforcement activity. On Sunday, many protesters dispersed as evening fell and police declared an unlawful assembly, a precursor to officers moving in and arresting people who didn't leave. But some of those remaining threw objects at police from behind a makeshift barrier that spanned the width of a street, and others hurled chunks of concrete, rocks, electric scooters, and fireworks at California Highway Patrol officers in their vehicles parked on the closed southbound 101 freeway. Officers ran under an overpass to take cover. Very intense situation and description of that. CBS News Los Angeles reported that several fires were set in dumpsters and trash bins, and at least one store had windows shattered by alleged looters. Dozens of buildings were tagged with graffiti, including the LAPD headquarters, the U.S. courthouse, and the old Los Angeles Times building. Footage from the CBS News Los Angeles helicopter showed that multiple windows of the police headquarters had been shattered as well. And here's a picture of that from CBS News. Separately, San Francisco police reported 60 arrests. It sounds like even more of people in San Francisco than LA, but maybe I missed something. Reported 60 arrests on Sunday. Police said people were taking part in First Amendment activities, but then began committing crimes, ranging from assault to felony vandalism causing property damage. An unlawful assembly was declared, but several people kept engaging in illegal activity. Police said 2 officers were hurt, though the injuries weren't life-threatening. Police said that the demonstrators then vandalized buildings, a police cruiser, and other property. Officers had been arresting people who didn't comply with the dispersal order. So this is the LA demonstrations intensified. Sunday's protests in Los Angeles, a sprawling city of 4 million people, were centered in several blocks of downtown, and it was the third and most intense day of demonstrations against Mr. Trump's immigration crackdown in the region, as the arrival of around 300 Guard troops spurred anger and fear among many residents. The Guard was deployed specifically to protect federal buildings, including the downtown detention center, where protesters concentrated. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonnell said officers were overwhelmed by the remaining protesters. He said they included irregular agitators who show up at demonstrators to cause trouble. Dozens of people were arrested throughout the weekend of the protest. So here's a picture of California. It says here in the caption, a California Highway Patrol officer pulls an electric scooter off a vehicle on a highway as protesters throw objects at police vehicles near Metropolitan Detention Center in downtown LA on June 8, 2025, Sunday. Mr. Trump responded to McDonnell on Truth Social, telling him to arrest protesters in face masks. Looking really bad in LA. Bring in the troops, he wrote. Starting in the morning, the troops stood shoulder to shoulder, carrying long guns and riot shields, as protesters shouted shame and go home. After some closely approached the Guard members, another set of uniformed officers advanced on the group, shooting smoke-filled canisters into the street. Minutes later, the LA police fired rounds of crowd control munitions to disperse the protesters, who they said were assembled unlawfully. Much of the group then moved to the block traffic on the 101 freeway until state patrol officers cleared them from the roadway by late afternoon. Nearby, at least 4 self-driving Waymo cars were set on fire, sending plumes of black smoke into the sky and exploding intermittently as the electric vehicles burned. By evening, police had issued an unlawful assembly shutting down several blocks of downtown Los Angeles. Flashbangs echoed out every few seconds into the evening. How the demonstration started. The arrival of the National Guard followed 2 days of protests that began Friday in downtown Los Angeles, before spreading on Saturday to Paramount, a heavily Latino city south of the city, and the neighboring Compton. Federal agents arrested immigrants in LA Fashions District and in a Home Depot parking lot and at several other locations on Friday. The next day, they were staging at a Department of Homeland Security office near another Home Depot in Paramount, which drew out protesters who suspected another raid. Federal authorities later said there was no enforcement activity at the Home Depot. The week-long tally of immigrants arrests in the LA area climbed above 100. Federal authorities said many more were arrested while protesting, including a prominent union leader who was accused of impeding law enforcement. So that's a key detail right there. A prominent union leader. Interesting. So it seems like the ICE officers were, looking to find people that were illegal, and they don't want it to be official because they're not technically allowed to do that, right? And what I've heard recently is that they are only going against criminal illegal immigrants or illegal immigrants that have a history of crime. But if it's true, that they're going to Home Depots to find illegal immigrants, that's just fucked up. That's fucked up. And because why would they even be at Home Depot in the first place, you might ask? Well, it's to find work, to do something, to make money, to feed their families, to make a living. And for them to weaselly, shamelessly go into like cause trouble and detaining these people and trying to deport these people is fucked up. It's fucked up, and it should be shameful. It should be shameful for people that want to separate parents from their families, and it's not a good. All of this is a way of Trump to show some type of authority over cities that have been lenient and have been supportive of immigrants. And yeah, like I just hope that that there can be some peaceful resolution from the leaders of immigrants, and I don't know if I can see a direct path for people that are already here, especially people that have been working for a long time that are illegal. But here it is, it says, what are officials saying? Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom requested that Mr. Trump remove the Guard members in a letter Sunday afternoon, calling their deployment a serious breach of state sovereignty. He was in Los Angeles meeting with local law enforcement and officials. The deployment appeared to be the first time in decades that a state's National Guard was activated without a request from its governor, a significant escalation against those who have sought to hinder the administration's mass deportation efforts. Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass blamed the increasingly aggressive protests on the president's decision to deploy the Guard, calling it a move designed to inflame tensions. They both urged protesters to remain peaceful. What we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration, Bass said in an afternoon press conference. This is about another agenda. This isn't about public safety. But McDonnell and the LAPD chief said that protests were following a similar pattern for episodes of civil unrest, with things ramping up in the second and third days. He pushed back claims by the Trump administration that the LAPD had failed to help federal authorities when protests broke out Friday after a series of immigration raids. His department responded as quickly as it could and had not been notified in advance of the raids and therefore was not pre-positioned for protests, he said. What? His department responded as quickly as it could and had not been notified in advance of the raids and therefore was not pre-positioned for protest. Interesting. Newsom, meanwhile, has repeatedly said that California authorities had the situation under control. He mocked Mr. Trump for posting a congratulatory message to the Guard on social media before troops had even arrived in Los Angeles, said, on MSNBC that Mr. Trump never floated deploying the Guard during a Friday phone call. He called the president a stone-cold liar. The admonishment, I can't say that word. I want to look that up. How do you say that? Hold on, guys. I know I suck at reading, and bear with me here. I might even cut this part out. Admonishment. Admonishment. The admonishments didn't deter the administration. It's a bold-faced lie for Newsom to claim that there was no problem in Los Angeles before President Trump got involved. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson said in a statement, the military has put about 700 Marines on high alert to possibly deploy to Los Angeles. 3 U.S. officials told CBS News on Monday, 2 days after Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has said they could be sent to the city if violence continues. The Marines could be mobilized in the coming days to support National Guard troops already in the city, like an official said. When asked what the threshold is for sending the Marines, Mr. Trump said Sunday, the bar is what I think it is. Democratic California Rep. Maxine Waters on Sunday strongly rebuked the president's decision to deploy the National Guard, calling the situation outrageous, horrible, and adding that she believes Mr. Trump is using LA, a sanctuary city, as an example. He's using deportation as a way to enhance his position with all the right-wingers out there who do not want this country to be a country of people coming from other places. The Democrat told a reporter outside the Metropolitan Detention Center, I think he's up to creating martial law. Former Vice President Kamala Harris also condemned Trump's administration's actions in LA on Sunday, calling the deployment of the National Guard a dangerous escalation meant to provoke chaos. In addition to the recent ICE raids in Southern California and across our nation, it is part of the Trump administration's cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division, said Harris, who also previously served as a senator and Attorney General of California. This administration's actions are not about public safety. They're about stoking fear. Fear of community. Where'd it go? They're about stoking fear of a community demanding dignity and a due process. Some perspective on the protest. The protest didn't reach the size of past administrations that brought the National Guard to Los Angeles, including the Watts and Rodney King riots and the 2020 protests against police violence, in which Newsom requested the assistance of federal troops. The last time the National Guard was activated without a governor's permission was in 1965, when President Lyndon B. Johnson sent troops to protect a civil rights march in Alabama, according to Brennan Center for Justice. So there's tension. There's tension between, obviously, the Democrats that support immigrants, and then you have Trump, who is looking to have illegal immigrants detained and then deported. I mean, that is not looking good. I just wonder, like, if that's true, if what type of situation happened first? Was the protesters? I think that the majority of protesters must have been peaceful, and that there's a violent minority at that is causing trouble and vandalism and property and all the other accusations that the reporters have been writing about, and perhaps that's why Trump had released the National Guard troops to be there. Or it could be that the National Guard troops were sent out and that made situations worse. It's hard to say which one came first, but I know that either way, both sides of this situation do not like each other. And it is very self-evident that Trump is looking to be successful in his mission to deport as many illegal immigrants as he can, and that angers a lot of people. It should make you feel a certain way for sure, because this country is built on immigrants, and most of us that live here in the United States, we came from somewhere else, sometime in the past, and this country, I think, is different because of its immigration. The idea that people come here to seek better lives and to pursue the ideals of America, and it should stand as an example to the rest of the world on how to treat people from other countries, right? But it's astonishing to me that this is happening in 2025. The amount of violence and disorientation of reporting on like it's not objective, and it's in a very nuanced and difficult subject to really report on, I imagine, because so many people have some political bias about what's going on, right? And like, let's check out some conservative news outlets to see what they say, right? But so far, the reporting on, what was it, MSNBC, is kind of painting this picture of Trump escalating things by bringing the National Guard and doing so without permission from the governor, and it being historic in him doing that. So that, take that as you may, that is a fact that Trump is one doing that, and without the governor's permission. So let's look at Fox News. So I'm going to share this screen. Here it is. So this is from Fox News. Fox News Channel. U.S. Marines to deploy to Los Angeles to help quell anti-IS raids. President Donald Trump earlier said sent some 2,000 National Guardsmen to riot racked city over the weekend. Okay, I don't need this. So it's basically reporting on the same thing that Trump has sent over National Guardsmen. I want to see a video of it, though. I want to see the video of it. I want to scroll down. There we go. Some more pictures of people setting fires on the streets of LA. A protester places debris in the fire as Border Patrol personnel in riot gear and gas masks stand guard outside an industrial park in Paramount, California on Saturday. The new deployment comes after President Donald Trump said, "Yep, we know that." I don't see anything different that is reporting on this. It says here, from our understanding, this is moving Marines from one base to another base at the time. The information we have is that the Marines are not being deployed. There's a difference between that and being mobilized. The level of escalation is completely unwarranted and uncalled for and unprecedented, mobilizing the best in class branch of the U.S. military against its own citizens, News and Press Office wrote on X. So this is, again, more criticism from Gavin Newsom's side, which is the Democratic governor here in California. Newsom and the California Attorney General claimed Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth trampled over California's sovereignty by calling up the state National Guard. So this is more pictures. A pro-immigrant protester holds a piñata depicting U.S. President Donald Trump during a demonstration outside the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City in support of LA protests. So this one's in Mexico. So it says here Trump wrote, "If they spit, we will hit." Trump wrote, "Such disrespect will not be tolerated. Federal law typically bars the U.S. military from carrying out domestic law enforcement purposes unless the president invokes the Insurrection Act." Newsom claimed Trump is trying to manufacture a crisis and that the president is hoping for chaos so he can justify more crackdowns, more fear, more control. The protests began in reaction to immigration and customs enforcement raids in the City of Angels as the Trump administration moves to make good on its promise of mass deportations. Over the weekend, protests devolved into violence that left vehicles in charred to crisp and windows smashed at the LA Police Department headquarters. So, not even Fox is hiding the details here, which is good because we want to know, the people want to know what's going on here, right? Am I still recording? Oh yeah, okay. I thought I had ended this for a second. So it's pretty clear cut here. It seems like that Donald Trump had overstepped his boundaries in doing this. I want to get a video of what's going on here, maybe on YouTube. On YouTube, where I can share what's going on here. If anything, just the freaking audio of it. Video of, no, I should just put LA ICE raids. I want to see the raids because, like, is there really raids going on? Like, what's going on? So, Home Depot targeted in LA immigration raids. Let's do that one.
LAPD is not involved in civil immigration enforcement. Also, keeping that in mind, the anxiety that all of this is causing to anybody who lives here in the city, a city that is supposed to be a sanctuary city.
Right. Absolutely. It's a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state. But what exactly does that mean? You have the supremacy of federal law, and you can't fight, that is the federal government, when it comes to enforcing federal law, and that's what was taking place here. Keep in mind, this happened in the middle of the afternoon, and although it was on a Friday, the Trump administration, there is no question about this, wants this to be high profile. They want the coverage. They want people to see what's happening. That's one of the reasons why the Director of Homeland Security is posing in flak jackets and actually doing commercials with federal money, advertising the fact that they're going after undocumented immigrants and those who employ them. So this is part of the administration's pledge to rid the country of those here without federal authorization. That's part of the immigration debate that was so central to the 2024 campaign. So part of this was designed to get as much attention as possible. What's also fascinating about it, though, is that, as Lolita pointed out, and we've never seen this in the so many years of covering Los Angeles, and that's what comes next, because there's a consequence to every action. And the consequence here is that you're starting to go after sections of the economy, certainly in the manufacturing economy, where there was a dependence for so many years on those of questionable illegal or immigration status. And we saw that not just in places like the manufacturing districts of Los Angeles, both downtown and elsewhere, but also, as I mentioned earlier, in the farm fields of the San Joaquin Valley. If you start as aggressively as this Department of Justice believes that they should, start aggressively going after undocumented immigrants, what impact is that going to have on segments of the economy that the state, and not just this state, but red states as well, where they depend on that kind of labor in order to keep farms functioning and the economies of those states functioning? We shall see.
Obviously, it's not going to go well because you have a lot of people that just came to this country are most likely working jobs that are blue collar, are farming, are construction, is restaurant, is hard manual labor. And this is what is kind of sinister about the whole immigration system here in the United States, is that aspect, is that you have a country as wealthy as the United States, um, allowing, not I don't want to say allowing because it sounds in a strange way, but I'm sure that there are people out there that run businesses that enjoy being able to hire people that don't have their proper documentation or U.S. citizenship, because then they can pay them less, and that's not good for people, for those people, because then they can't have like a living wage, um and their standard of living is not going to be good, and being poor in this world, you're kind of forced to do certain things, and sometimes being poor leads to radical solutions, and sometimes poverty is just, it can be very difficult, I'll say that. And I just want to say that this world, it is unfair, and part of the reason why a lot of Mexicans left Mexico is to escape the corruption, escape the poverty, escape um into another country that has opportunities, that has a future, right? And I just it's sad to see that the future generations of other immigrants or other people from other countries that have sucky situations, and they're not even just sucky, horrible situations and terrible situations in their countries, that they won't have a place to go, and you know um so I'm very conflicted on it, because I can see that too many people coming at once is not good, and what Biden did was not good by allowing so many people coming in, unvetted, especially, um but at the same time, like, I feel for those people that are looking for, or for the majority of people that are here, just here to work, here to improve their lives, um and so it's very conflicting, because I don't think that people should be completely biased on one side of this controversial topic, because there are some things that I'm sure that people can object to me, and I'm fine with that, but um I'm like searching for the right words to say here, because of how controversial this topic is, um definitely not good, not good for Trump, definitely not good, even for, obviously, for people being deported, because it's not good for Trump, because I think that he underestimated Mexicans' willingness to be together, especially in time of need. I think that he needs to show more respect for Mexicans, especially Mexicans that have been working in this country for a long, long ass time. And they will be here, and we will be here for a long ass time in the future. We'll be here to work and to improve, Um, I absolutely dislike and hate the violence that is occurring, and I wish that this didn't exist, and the people were in better situations, but let's look at more clips. I want to see what there is here. So it says here, this is from the BBC. U.S. military confirms 700. Okay. The
to put down demonstrations over the objections of state and local officials. And late today, 700 active duty U.S. Marines have also been deployed. They're expected to arrive in the next 24 hours. Law enforcement has made dozens of arrests, and the events are sparking a debate about state versus federal authority. Lisa Desjardins starts our coverage.
Today, in parts of Los Angeles, cleanup, a forced calm, and in one part, a crowd of protesters outside the facility holding union leader David Huerta,
I don't see
charged
anything.
with obstructing police during an ice raid.
I don't see anything violent about this. You just have a group of people out here standing outside of a building. I don't see anything violent with it.
Last week. This after a tumultuous weekend when thousands of people flooded the downtown. Some blocked off a major highway, set fire to driverless cars, and threw rocks at police officers, while police responded with tear gas, rubber bullets, flashbangs, and arrests. LA police have declared all of downtown an unlawful assembly area, and the debate over the response rages.
Some of the things you're reading about in Los Angeles, thank goodness we sent out some wonderful National Guard.
At the White House today, Trump pointed without proof at what he called paid agitators and active duty troops, Marines, to Los Angeles without invoking the Insurrection Act that other presidents have cited for such a rare move. That would be an unprecedented step. As a result, California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom faces two tests: protecting his largest city from upheaval and confronting Trump. Today, California sued the president, calling the National Guard order unconstitutional and immoral. Trump has said he is open to arresting Newsom. Last night, the governor responded.
Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with.
For his part, President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, said there's no plan to arrest Newsom. He defended federal actions.
The men and women at ICE, the men and women of the Border Patrol made LA safer that day, but you're not hearing any of this. All you hear is a rhetoric about ICE being racist, about ICE being Nazis and terrorists, and Governor Newsom feeds that.
This all was sparked Friday after a series of immigration raids by federal agents clad in camouflage as part of President Trump's mass deportation campaign. Protesters surrounded a federal detention facility in downtown LA, where police clashed with them. On Saturday, more protests erupted in LA, spreading to the towns of Paramount and Compton amid reports of immigration raids there. That was the day Trump ordered the National Guard deployment. Also Saturday, the FBI said an officer was hit by a rock. They are still searching for the suspect. At the same time, video showed vast groups of nonviolent protesters, some practicing civil disobedience, like these Sunday afternoon, who marched onto a portion of the highway stopping traffic.
This is us saying you can't do this. We won't let you separate children from their families, and we're gonna fight back.
Police in LA eventually forced protesters off the highway, but things were no longer peaceful. Driverless cars set aflame, and people threw rocks at patrol cars. Officers took shelter underneath an overpass. Others in the crowd also shot fireworks. Police fired flashbangs. Last night, LA Police Chief Jim McDonnell condemned the violence.
This violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass blamed President Trump for escalating the situation.
What we're seeing in LA is chaos caused by the administration. People should exercise their right to protest. That's their First Amendment right. But people should also exercise that right peacefully. We do not want to play into the administration's hand.
I don't want to show everything. I want to know what the comments are too, and then they're turned off here, but I want to know what people think. What do people think about this, right? It's another case of power overstepping its boundaries. Another case of that. You know, of a government oppressing the freedom of speech of people to be able to show the power that this is not okay. What it's going on is, and that I think there was a woman in that clip who angry, very passionately yelled, we don't want to separate children from their families, or something like that, right? This is very saddening to me. I want to know what Trump has been saying about this situation, right? Trump.
The National Guard, and I did want to play out his remarks for you right now.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it?
What is he saying?
He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent.
Okay, well that's a useless video because you can't even hear the freaking audio. Wait, let me see.
The little railroad he's building.
A little what?
About 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under budget. What did your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems? Oh, are they people ICE is trying to deport, or are they professional agitators? The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
Professional agitators. Yeah, what is he talking about? Is there a better video on that? Who's agitating? The protests. I've heard of that before, where you have a peaceful protest and then you have people that come and mess that up and make it worse by enticing people to do things that they don't otherwise want to do, into doing dumb things like throw a rock at an officer. I know PBD said something about it. I want to know what you guys think. I mean, this is big news. This is very big news. It's something that's hitting. It's something that's been on my mind since Sunday, while I was with my family. It was in the back of my mind that about the whole situation is not okay. I want to know, like, the LA, not the LA riots, but the raids on Friday, because they mentioned that there were raids on Friday. What is that about? I thought that LA raids, ICE raids, did they overstep their boundary? What is going on there? Protesters. Because all I see is like the protests, but what started the protest? That's the problem that I have here. Maybe if I find it on Google. Let me know. How did these happen? How did these protests happen? Because LA raids. No, ICE raids in LA Friday. So here's a map of it. Oh God. So right now I'm looking at how this even happened, guys, because is it true that they were raids? So far I'm not getting anything like that. Maybe on X. ICE in LA. ICE raids in LA. Anti-ICE protesters kidnapped. Families and lawyers desperate to contact LA workers arrested. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Get to the bottom of this. Share my screen for you guys, and then we'll read it here for you. So it says here, kidnapped. Families and lawyers desperate to contact LA workers arrested in ICE raids. As many demand the release of loved ones, Trump's border czar admits some were arrested without criminal records. Gabriel says he has not been able to speak to his brother Jacob since Jacob was arrested in a raid by armed immigration officials and federal agents on the Ambience apparel warehouse in the Los Angeles fashion district on Friday. Yurien Contreras doesn't know how her father, Mario Romero, is doing either. I witnessed how they put my father in handcuffs, chained him from the waist and from his ankles, Contreras said at a press conference in LA on Monday morning. My family and I haven't had communication with my dad. We don't know anything. So they arrested someone's dad. Jacob and Romero were among dozens of people arrested in immigration enforcement actions in LA this weekend. Raids that sparked a roaring backlash and eventually led to the deployment of the National Guard in the city. They were kidnapped by agents, Contreras said. I demand due process for my father and dozens of other workers. The raids in the fashion district were followed by enforcement actions in the nearby city of Paramount, where federal agents cuffed and detained laborers at Home Depot. Agents were also spotted outside a donut shop in nearby Compton around schools. There's a full video of this right here.
We empower those who act.
Okay. Don't want to have a random mess. We don't want to have an ad here, but some of the families of those detained gathered outside Ambience on Monday, demanding the release of their loved one. Some, like Jacob, were the sole breadwinners in their families. Others, like Jose Ortiz, had worked in the LA's garment district for years. Ortiz had been in Ambience for 18 years. He was always here, always a loyal worker. His daughter, Sarai Ortiz, said he is someone who gave his life to this community and to his work. Carlos Gonzalez said his older brother, Jose Paulinho, was taken away not only from his siblings and his mother, but also from one of the friendliest and most loving dogs I have ever met. At least 14 of those detained were members of the Escalation. What is this? I don't know how to say that. I try my best. Episcopalian of Los Angeles. 14 members of one of our Episcopal churches couldn't be in church this morning on the day of Pentecost. Their government ripped them from the arms of their families at home in the body of Christ at church, said L.A. Bishop John Harvey Taylor. Loved ones and lawyers are still scrambling to find where all of them were taken. A police shot flashbangs overhead. I begged officers to let me meet with those who were detained, said Elenia Jung He Vermeulen, a legal fellow at the California Collaborative for Immigrant Justice. Instead of upholding the constitutional rights of those detained, they prepare to repress those rising up against these atrocities. The Department of Homeland Security said that 118 immigrants were arrested this week and released the names of some of those in custody, alleged criminal violators, but the administration's border czar, Tom Homan, also admitted that the agency was arresting people without criminal records. The raids at workplaces pushed by Homan and by White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller come amid a border push to speed up arrests and deportation. Homeland said the LA area is likely to see more enforcement this week, even as thousands of National Guard deployed to the city prepared to quell protests against the raids. Lawyers from the Immigrant Defenders Law Center found that immigrants apprehended in LA were initially detained in the basement of the federal immigration building. As attorneys, we are disgusted by DHS blatant betrayal of basic human dignity as we witness hundreds of people held in deplorable conditions without food, water, or beds for 12 plus hours, said Lindsay, president of Immigrant Defense. This is an urgent moment for our country to wake up to the terror ISIS inflicting on communities and take action. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, held a rally in downtown LA demanding the humane treatment and access to lawyers for all detainees. At least some of the people arrested over the weekend were almost immediately put on the bus and deported to Mexico, said Luis Angel Reyes Salazar, a deportation defense attorney supporting the impacted families. And when they were removed, they weren't giving any paperwork, which is highly unusual and irregular, he said. Others were taken to the immigration detention centers Adelanto, California, more than 200 drive from downtown LA, or El Paso, Texas, all of the smacks of lawlessness. They have been violations of many, many rights. The workplace raids were especially brazen, lawyers said, after a federal judge in April issued a preliminary injunction forbidding warrantless immigration stops. The injunctions apply to a wide swath of California and come after CBP conducted similar raids in California's architectural Kern Country in January. You can't just racially, ethnically profile people and arrest them and ask questions later, said Reyes Salazar, noting that many of those arrested had no criminal history and could apply for various forms of immigration relief if they were allowed to contact attorneys. If the federal government can come and kidnap people without disclosing any information as the reason for those arrests, every person in this country should be appalled and terrified. Absolutely. That he put it well. He said that very well. Wow, that's very good reporting from the Guardian. I respect that. So there you have it. There were people that were detained, possibly deported already without legal bounds. So that is a reason to protest. So I found the reason. That is very, very insane. Can't believe that this would happen in 2025, you know? But what can we do? What can the people do to support the people detained and other fellow Mexicans and other Latinos out there that are scared and terrified of these horrible acts from the Trump administration? It's very hard to put into words how this can make a person feel. And you know, I'm not the first person to talk about this, and I'm not going to be the last person to talk about this on any type of medium, you know. And for my whole life, you know, here growing up in Las Vegas, being Mexican wasn't a problem because there's always you know, I grew up in an area that was predominantly Latino. And so I never felt like a minority, you know, but really in reality, I think Latinos are a minority in a country full of white Americans, you know, Americans of not just white, you know, race, but, you know, Irish, Italian, and other European countries. And so I would say that, yes, have, I don't know. I feel so bad for people that don't have papers and they are being thrown out, being kicked out of a country that was just a couple of months ago, you know, some cities were helping them, you know, to settle down here in the United States. I've always thought that the immigration system here in the United States was messed up. You know, I can't imagine that immigration has to be such a, yeah, they have to break an arm and a leg to come to a different country, even another country in the world. You know, um, but that's just I guess how it is, and when you expand your mind and your perspective on going to a third world country, you start to realize that people have it really good here in the United States, and they are very privileged to be in the situation that they are in the world and history and all that. You know, and Mexico being the neighbors to the greatest nation on earth. I just I hope that relationships between these two countries can heal eventually. You know, I don't want to feel like people are have some type of judgment when they see me go into the store or go anywhere, you know, minding my business, and some person out there that is racist, that it doesn't like, you know, Mexicans, is going to do something violent towards me just because of the policies of Donald Trump. And this is a problem that I think that Trump is very much breaking some type of law, right? Some type of law out there. From the perspective of conservatives, I see that they don't see it as breaking the law. They see it as that the president is enforcing the law, and if people are illegal in this country, that they're going to deport them. Period. And that very strict way of looking at the law is missing out on the empathetic view on how we should treat human beings with dignity and respect. You know, without the same things that they were accusing of the Biden administration not vetting or looking at the background of people coming into the country. They're doing the same thing, but in the reverse. They're not vetting people's history. They're just kicking them out because of their status. It's ridiculous. It's horrible, and it's very fucking tragic. It's terrible. You know, me being Mexican, but growing up, you know, mostly speaking English, mostly, you know, in American culture, I've always felt in between two cultures, that one side that, you know, and it's been very difficult for me to kind of talk about, just because I love America, but also love Mexico because I am Mexican, you know, and so it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart so much to see that there is this issue going on in the world. But the reality is that people are going to judge a book by its cover, and they're going to judge me because I look Mexican, and they're going to judge me because of my heritage, you know, because of this, even of this podcast. They're going to see that, you know, my name is very much Latino, um, very much Mexican, one, and have their own pre downloaded ideas about who I am, right? And that's the reason why this issue kind of hurts me so much more, because of it being a tie to my identity as a person. You know, I don't want people to be deported for being illegal in this country. You know, with especially if they don't have a criminal history, have been working, have been responsible, you know, otherwise model citizen. You know, the priorities of the Trump administration is to move fast and break things quickly. And they're definitely breaking things quickly. But I don't think that the Democrats have been useful, um, have been helpful for Latinos and immigrants either. I don't know if that's the case, because although they speak a lot about diversity and all of that, the things with the Democratic Party is that they're so against the ideas of America that it feels like it's not. Well, what do I know about politics, right? But it just feels like they haven't lent us a hand over the long period of time. I mean, we're talking about Obama 8 years, right? Biden 4 years. And in that time, they weren't able to figure out some type of plan to help immigrants, even though immigrants were a big, the not even, yeah, immigrants were a big part of why Obama and Biden get elected. Um, they always promise the Mexicans and other Latino groups and Hispanics they're going to help us out getting other fellow people citizenship, and it never happens. It never ends up happening. And part of it, I think it is what I had said before, is that they like the cheap labor, and that's the truth of it. I hope that you have went on this journey with me into looking at the situation with Trump, the LA protesting that has happened over the ICE raids, and the unlawful acts that Trump has made. I don't know how people would take this episode, to be honest with you, because I have a lot of thoughts on it, and it's still something that is developing. It's not done yet. I always get the sense that I would prefer to be neutral on it, but I don't. At the same time, I don't want to stay out of this issue because of it being so impactful to not just other families, but my family as well. I have family members that don't have papers. I have friends that don't have papers either, or undocumented. Like, what's going to happen in the future? Are they going to get deported? Or are they going to get kicked out too? It's just not it's something that is very personal to me, and it's very personal to other Mexicans. Um, but what can be done, right? I'll, let's ask ChatGPT. Let's see, maybe AI has a solution. I've been using AI a lot, um, the whole day really, but is there? Here, I'm trying to share. Okay, let's ask ChatGPT. Is there a solution to solution to immigration? Can't spell, guys. So let's ask AI. Let's see what AI thinks. It says, so okay, so it's still developing. Still developing something here. 1. Securing the border with smart enforcement. So it's kind of Trump's idea, right? So ChatGPT says securing the border with smart enforcement. A first pillar is enhancing border security through targeted technology-driven measures rather than the blanket physical barriers. Proposals include upgraded surveillance and detection, deploy drones, professional border patrol, e-verify rollout with safeguards, and a pathway to legal citizenship. This is what I think is going to be important. An estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants live and work in the United States. Many have deep community ties and contribute economically. A durable solution must offer conditional legal status, immediate temporary status, work authorization, health coverage for those here long term, contingent on background checks, tax compliance, and learning English. Earned path to citizenship. After 8 to 10 years of continuous residence, payment of a modest fine, and the completion of civics and language requirements, eligible individuals could apply for permanent residency and eventual citizenship. Special provisions for Dreamers and essential workers. Fast track permanent status for DACA recipients. DACA age spouses of U.S. citizens and agricultural, and healthcare workers to address critical labor shortages. Such a plan balances humanitarian and economic priorities. It regularizes workers, ensures that they pay taxes, and brings them out of the shadows under clear rules. Modernizing legal immigration channels. Current visa backlogs and per-country caps create arbitrary waits, often decades, for skilled professionals and family members. Key reforms include eliminate per-country employment caps, allow high-skilled immigrants, H-1B and L-1 holders to receive green cards based on job eligibility rather than nationality, reducing visa retrogression. Increase overall visa numbers, raise annual quotas for employment-based and family spouse visas in line with labor market demands and demographic trends. Streamline processing, digitalized application systems, add staff at USCIS, and standardized adjunction timelines to cut multiple-year waits to months. These changes would bolster U.S. competitiveness, address critical skill shortages, especially in tech, healthcare, and academia, and reunify families more quickly. Reforming the asylum and refugee system. The current asylum backlog stretches USCIS and immigration courts for years, leaving vulnerable people in legal limbo. Reform should include safe third country agreements, partner with neighboring countries, Mexico, Guatemala, to process certain asylum claims regionally under U.S. standards. A mandatory case management. Assign a caseworker within 7 days of filing, with digital portals that track hearing dates and requirements. Increase refuge admissions. Restore the refuge ceiling to at least 125 per year, reflecting global humanitarian needs in U.S. capacity. Faster fairer adjunction would reduce the incentive for irregular crossings while upholding Americans' tradition of offering refuge. Addressing root causes. Okay, so this is a lot. This is actually good, very good from ChatGPT here. Maybe ChatGPT should run the country, right? I'm joking, but this is it, guys. This right here is what I like, right? That immigrants get a path towards citizenship. And that's what I'm thinking too, guys. That's what I'm thinking too. Now the question is, when can this be passed, right? When can this problem be looked at? And hopefully it's looked at now. But I hate that this has to come to this, where you have violent protests, people getting hurt, and now all of other immigrants, the Mexicans and other Latinos, are going to be profiled. It's a horrible situation like that. To just deport people is a stupid plan. Just to deport people all at once is not good at all. Yeah, I definitely show support to the protests, to the people protesting ICE raids. I think that there should be different strategies, and that people should not be afraid to go out to live their own lives, just because they're undocumented. Um, and it's sad because it is the case that many people do live like that, that are undocumented. They fear going out because they think they're going to come across some type of ICE officer or something like that. So to other Mexicans and other Latinos, Hispanics that were born here and have their papers, I urge you to speak up. Speak up about it, talk about it, bring it up, have it be known what is going on. Because I think that we are in that privileged position as people that have papers, and also Latinos and Hispanics, to say something, but not just say something, is to act, right? The only problems are that protesting is not enough. What it takes is different processes through the political system to pass bills and to pass the right, and to elect the right officials to lead us in better directions. But this is an issue that the federal government needs to act quickly on. And like I said, like, the Democrats need to really refocus and re-engage themselves in trying to find their identity as a political group. Because if there are the ones that stand in defense against this tyranny, then most Latinos will be voting Democrat even more so. But I am aware of Latinos and Hispanics voting for Donald Trump, and part of that, I think, comes from some ideals and perspectives that the Democrats value, that conservative and even moderate independents don't like about the Democratic Party. So I don't know. I just wish that there was someone on our side that had power to really to make an influence, And me talking about this on my podcast, I hope that it starts that push for people to talk about it and to come together and to somehow spread awareness about it, But yeah, I'm going to start wrapping up this episode. We went through a lot of what's going on in LA and the decision for Donald Trump to send National Guard guardsmen out there to help the LAPD combat, I guess, the protesting, and the conflict of whether or not it was Trump that sent them or if it was the violent protest that initiated it. Regardless, the situation is not looking good. There's a lot of violence, and it's looking like the ICE raids will continue in LA. So even though the protests had occurred, that more ICE raids is definitely going to send more violence on the city. And I hope that people stay safe out there protesting, and don't get arrested for things that they didn't commit, and that there is justice being served on the officers maybe overreaching their control and their power, because people have the right to express themselves, and people have the right to say that what's on their mind in this country. And I believe that other Americans that share that value of freedom of speech should value that there are protests. Obviously, we all don't like that there is violence occurring in these protests, and whether or not Um, I'm sure that most people don't support that. Most people wouldn't want that to be the image of what immigrants like Mexicans are, and that we are better than that. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. This has been Reasonable with Juan Alcala. If you like the episode, let me know. Let me know what you think. Comment and like and subscribe and rate this episode. Tell me how I'm doing. Check out my other episodes. I made an episode on psychedelics and behavioral technicians' path through healing through psychedelics and other things, other episodes that are more personal. This one has been more about the current situation in LA and in our country. And yeah, thanks for listening.